wonder if this is related to Spawn at all, besides Spawn being in the name. Ah, that joke sucks. Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today let's take a look at the McFarlane Toys Walmart exclusive gold label Mandarin Spawn. Now right off the bat, I've never been a huge Spawn kind of guy. I read the comics, I had a few of the toys, but my buddy had the original Mandarin Spawn and I always kind of coveted it. It was just a beautiful action figure, and I think it was in different sizes, different colors. He had a few, but to finally get my own, yeah, that makes me happy. But I did cancel my original Walmart pre-order for this because the standard release is going to be in red. I like the look of that better. But this showed up at one of my local Walmarts, just sitting there on the peg saying, "Buy me, Robo, buy me." So I had to do it. I had to grab it. Looking at the package, it is very dedicated to the aesthetic of this figure. This is not going to be reused for anything else except for maybe that red version. Big window shows you everything you're getting here. I love how the blue and the silvers contrast against the yellow, but then the blades kind of blend into it. So either way, it's trash. Ooh, that's fancy. Gold label. 14 plus, not a toy. The classic Spawn logo, Mandarin Spawn. These swirly twirlies coming through, work around to the side, come around to the back. Pretty promotional picture of the figure. 22 moving parts, which is what McFarlane calls their system when it comes to articulation. Second verse, same as the first, go around on top. There's a little bit of window, more design work. On the bottom, legalese, barcode, but let's go ahead and get this open, see what we're dealing with. It's actually been a bit since I've opened a McFarlane figure, hasn't it? I haven't been picking up the DC stuff because, well, I mean, there's just so much stuff going on out there, but something unique and hard to open like this, I had to give it a shot. Let go. Oh, well, always have your clippers handy for some twist ties or some bands or whatever they use. Basic stand, foot peg right there, Spawn tampoed on it. Otherwise, it's just a disc. Oh, and getting it out of the package, it's so beautiful, but it is limited. The overall design just doesn't lend itself well to action figure, as in lots of articulation, as in lots of action. Over the past few years, McFarlane Toys has made huge strides, at least as far as they're concerned when it comes to articulation. And this figure has most of that new articulation that they've been trying out, but like I said, the design just gets in the way of itself. For the most part, don't get me wrong, there is some movement here. But because of that design work, just look at the intricate sculpting. It's hard to be mad because of the lack of range of movement. There is just so much to look at here. Everywhere you look, something catches your eye. That's beautiful. I mean, just looking at the face on the knee pad, and then that moment that you realize, oh, they're not the same face on both sides. Same thing goes for the shin guards. On the left side, there's this crazy face, and then on the right, there's another face, and some flame detail. Same thing on the right forearm, there's a face with a swirl, but then on the left side, you get more of a demon mask looking face. That works itself up into this pokey elbow. On the other side, on the right, it's a different kind of spike on the back. Is that an owl? What's going on his back? The right shoulder pad, it's almost like an ivory sculpt. Again, a face, a demon face, some metal, and then on the right there's some blue, some gray into a big honking Spawn looking spike. But then you start looking even closer, there's another face in that jade color embedded in his bicep. And I don't know how easy it is to see, but look at the wrist joint. There's a face sculpted into there too. And in the elbow joint. You bend the elbow and it even reveals some mouth. So maybe that's all the souls he's captured or some kind of trophies or something. Then you get up to the face and that's where most of the colors are concentrated. You see kind of that emerald color, some blues, some bone, some ivory, some shading. Of course there's a Spawn logo snuck in there. Some green on his earrings, and that works into a flame type design up on top. Oh, did I forget about the chest? There's a big old face with some intricate details. Again, that green color brought in for the nostrils and a couple of gems here and there, and of course the eyes or his nipples. Yeah. Put it all together. Oh, yeah, it just works so well. Before getting into articulation, though, I do have a huge problem, and it's just the painter in me, maybe, or the amateur kind of crappy painter. This big shoulder pad on the left side coming up into the huge spike, there is a nice dry brush of gray over the blue, and it does a lot to age it a bit and bring out that detail. But none of the other blue armor bits have that gray dry brush. Nothing down here, nothing, well, this is cloth, so I can understand a little bit, but up on the forearms, on the back maybe, and then of course up on the head. It just really stands out at me. But I started thinking, well, maybe this is dry brush because this is actually a separate piece. They could dry brush this without worrying about it getting on the black of the arm. Like pieces that are both blue and black, that it was more risk of looking messy, maybe. But then I realized the shin guards are separate pieces and they didn't do it down there. Maybe because of the white, or maybe the gray silver. Those parts have kind of a silver dry brush on them. Here and here and here. Then we get to what may be a sticking point for a lot of people, and that's the articulation, or where it's hindered in places. Because of the way the head is sculpted with all the flyaways up, and even the neck has a spike coming up, of course that's gonna... Then the spike comes down on the chin too, so it runs into things whenever you try to put it in positions. You're just kind of working around that, and it's not gonna go very far, up and down at least. Then there's the hip joints. It has this armored loincloth here in the front. It is thicker to maintain all this sculpt. So while this is flexible, as soon as you get to here, not so flexible. And the hips are right behind that. So it's not gonna get you a lot of forward and back. You can push it. The harder you push, and I think this may be on purpose to avoid breaking the joint, you can pop the leg off. And with that, you see it's just a ball joint in there. Easy enough to just pop back on. Again, in the back, a little rubbery, but once you get to where it wraps around, it gets stiffer. And just to mention it, the leg, at least the lower part, is sculpted to be a dog leg. It's supposed to kick back, kick forward, and I figured out the best way to do that is to kick the knee back one click and then push this forward. And that puts the feet directly under the weight of the body. But then you get to the feet themselves, it's hard to manipulate. They're kind of stuck under these shin guards, and then they have big old detents. You can see them right there. I understand why they did that, because it's supporting a tall, lanky figure. So you don't want the ankles breaking out from under you once you have them in a stance. And I say breaking, I mean that it loosens up and just bloop, falls over. So you're not gonna be able to just plop it down after you get the legs in position and the feet conform to the floor. You know, some action figures you can, just stay up. Some action figures you can just, and the foot turns and goes into the right position. Here, you gotta put some extra work into it. And then just a personal preference, just my own kind of symmetry OCD going on, even though this is the most asymmetrical figure I've bought in a long time. The way the loincloth juts to the left a little bit, I don't know why that bugs me. That's just my own problem with it. I wish it was a bit more vertical. Oh, well, never mind. This is a separate piece and I shifted it on the hips. Okay, that's not a gripe at all. I fixed it. Going over articulation, there seems to be, well, some kind of, well, let's just pull until we see what's going on here. There is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck. But even with the dumbbell joint, you're essentially just have a swivel. Slide up and down. Oh, well, there's tilt too. There's a butterfly joint at the shoulder, goes forward and back just a little bit, can raise up, can pull down. Hinge at the shoulder, but again, there's some sculpt work. It's gonna run into the head. But if you rotate that back, you can go almost out to 90. This side you'd think would be worse, but it actually goes behind his head right off the bat. Rotates all the way around. Swivel at the bicep, and the shoulder guards are mounted to the bicep below, so not a problem rotating, at least that far. Single elbow comes up slightly past 90. Wrist is a swivel hinge swivel, so you can have it going up and down, or rotate that, bring it here, side to side. Ball joint mid-torso, below the teeth, ball joint at the waist, so nice hula hoop action. And that's what you're gonna use to compensate for the lack of neck movement. If you wanna look up, you gotta lean back. You wanna look down, you gotta lean forward. Do get some twist out of that. Like we talked about, a ball coming out to the hip can come forward, about right there. Back, out. Oh, even that hits a bit. And there is looseness to it. There's a lot of weight down here. Slight rotation, but as we all know, McFarlane's not known for hip swivel. Double knee, spike runs into the back of the knee right there. Can he force? Bing! He can kick his little pouch on the back. Hinge at the ankle goes way back. The shin guard is slightly rubbery, so you can push forward. And then the forward-facing pin gives you, well, it's not all the way forward, so it's kind of an angled rocker. For accessories, Mandarin Spawn comes with a big spear. Has some nice sculpted detail to the handle and a spike on the end, some wrap. Again, like the blue on the armor, I would have liked to seen some gray dry brush here. Get to the blade and they've put a Spawn logo right in the middle of it. Intricate detail right here. Is it two dragons looking at each other? And even some dings for some wear and some tear. Then it also has this sword-like blade. Smaller grip, more chunk to the gold. They bring this green turquoise emerald color back in for the feathers. Again with the grip. It's so nicely sculpted. I hate to see it unpainted. But then for the blade here, more chunks out of the edge. Awesome sculpt to the dragon embedded in, and then a sculpted dragon down here, making it look like the blade is almost the fire coming out. The hands aren't the softest material in the world, but they sculpted the fingers sharp as hell. You have to kind of get up under it and then whoop, force it in there real quick before it starts closing out down on you. Get in there. Stop it. Okay. Because of the way the wrist is set up, you can get all kinds of poses out of this. It holds weapons really well. It's just not going to be a lot of running or, action stances with the legs. In promotional images, I felt the gold was a little bit too much contrast given the colors of the body, but it's almost just enough contrast. It stands out. Mandarin Spawn stands at about 7 3/4 inches to the top of the head, and then at the tallest point on that big spike is 9 inches, which works fairly well with other McFarlane toys in the same scale, like the DC Multiverse Superman, I think from Wave 1, and then the Mortal Kombat Spawn. But it's definitely going to be big because, again, 7 inches compared to our 6.5 inch scale stuff like Hasbro Star Wars Black Series or Marvel Legends. So at the end of the day, not as dynamic as I was hoping it would be, but one hell of a shelf piece. Don't get me wrong, it is posable, but I feel like this is more of a pick a stance and put it on the shelf and just let people ask about it. This is going to be a conversation starter. This is more art than action. Because looking at it, it is really easy to lose yourself. You start looking at everything. Hell, I'm looking at it right now and still finding stuff. So if I missed anything during the review, don't kill the messenger. This makes me even more excited about the red one. Again, I prefer that color. Maybe because of the whole dragon thing, I think red more than blue, but at the same time, having the blue one and them having opposite shoulder spikes, different designs, it'll be a nice bookend type situation. And I could gripe about the joints more because you know me. For 20 bucks, getting this amount of just eye candy, visually interesting action figure, I can't gripe about that. I'm super happy with this. So if you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or just in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. Going back to the gold blades for a minute, and I was sitting here wondering, why didn't they make those silver to match the rest of the costume? And then I remembered, and I happened to glance at the back of the package, that's how it originally was. Maybe it does kind of get lost in the overall color scheme. The gold helps it stand out. Would I buy a reissue with silver? Maybe.